Hello, I know I met you well. Today I'll be talking to us about the message I titled The Act of Worship. And I'll be taking my reading from John chapter 4, from verse 20 to 24. But I would like to read it in New Living Translation so we can be able to get it quickly. So tell me, why is it that you Jews insist that Jerusalem is the only place of worship, while we Samaritans claim it is here at Mount Gerizim where our ancestors worship? Jesus replied, "Believe me, dear woman, the time is coming when it will no longer matter where you worship the Father, on this mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him, for salvation comes from the Jew." And in answer in verse 23, "But the time is coming, indeed it is here now, where true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him in that way." Verse 24, "For God is spirit, and so those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth." Now, let me start by this. Now, Jesus met a woman by the well, and the woman wanted to know, how come we Samaritans say this is the right place of worship, but you Jews said that is the right place of worship? Perceiving that you are a prophet, you should have an answer to this. And look at something Jesus told the woman. He said the time is coming when it will no longer matter where you worship the Father. But Jesus did not stop there. He had to educate the woman also, that though we are already at that time where it does not matter where you worship, but you need a little bit of education in order to understand what Jesus was communicating, will be communicating in verse 23 and verse 24. And what did he now tell the woman? He said, "You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him." Now, let me say this. Who are Samaritans? Remember in the days of Rehoboam and Jeroboam, when Jeroboam went to meet Rehoboam, said he should lessen the burden which Solomon, his father, put upon Israelites, and which he refused. That led to the breaking of the tribe of Israelites into two different kingdoms. And the 10 tribe went one way, and then we have Judah going the other way. And so what formed the Judah tribe, or also the Jew, which I also refer to the Jew or the Judah, are the tribe of Judah and Benjamin, and mostly some part of the Levite, because they could perform their function, also follow. Now, but the other 10 tribes were the one that now form another kingdom. Those 10 tribes are the one referred to Samaritan. Maybe you get it now. Those 10 tribes were referred to Samaritan, while Judah and Benjamin, with partly most Levites, were referred to Jewish people. Now there was something that occurred. You know, there's Mount Gerizim. It's also part of the mountain that Israel had a encounter while they were coming out of the land of Egypt. And therefore, the Samaritans were able to use the Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, to establish that actually, because of the visitation they had, and also some command that was given to them when Moses said this will stand upon Mount Ebal and the other will stand upon Mount Gerizim, to declare why this one will be saying blessed, this one will be saying cursed whenever they were reading the law. So they believe that Gerizim is a place where God actually revealed himself. So it should be the place of worship, not Jerusalem where the temple was built. So there had been that argument, because they, after many years, they built a place of worship for God on Mount Gerizim. So they do more of their worship in Mount Gerizim, because they believe that's the first place they met God, or the revelation of God also is revealed. But the Jewish people use Jerusalem, the temple of Jerusalem, as the place of worship. So there will be argument. But look at Jesus has been able to clarify it a bit here. He said, "You Samaritan know very little about the one you worship." So Jesus cannot be wrong. If we are followers of Jesus, he cannot be wrong. He said they know, their understanding about what worship means, and the one they worship is little, but that the revelation of the fullness of what worship is with the Jew. Because the revelation that is going to bring about the manifestation of Christ was actually with the Jew, not with the Samaritan. Therefore, it means salvation actually is going to come from the Jew. So he was able to correct that. Now, what are important things we need to consider when it comes to worship? Jesus went on to tell us, he said, but the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshiper will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father seeketh such to worship him. Worship, there are two important elements upon which worship must hang, which is spirit and truth. These important two elements upon which worship is going to take its anchor or its stand, they are more like the foundation that will uphold what worship is, which is truth and spirit. Remember, Jesus already told the woman that a time is coming. He told him, I said, it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this your Mount Gerizim or you worship him in Jerusalem. It will no longer matter. And what is going to remove Jerusalem or remove Mount Gerizim or anywhere as a place of worship is going to be the spirit and the truth. If upon these two important elements, anywhere you are worshiping and you cannot find this important ingredient, then there is no true worship of the Father. The true worship of the Father is going to be hanging upon the Spirit and the truth. And he told us why the Spirit. Let's first answer why the Spirit. Verse 24 says, God is a spirit. He cannot be worshipped from the standpoint of the flesh. And that is the reason why God also made man a spirit being, so that there can be communication. Most time, what we tend to want to do is we want to communicate our worship via the flesh. You see, when even the Bible says, whatsoever that is done without faith is a sin. So, if now there are physical elements that manifest in our worship, take for example, you know, worship is much more than a song. Worship is a submission and a reference, a love expressed to the Father. It's much more than a song. But you can be singing as a worship. You can be giving as a worship. You can be serving God in his house as a worship. You can pray as a worship. Now, look at those things I just mentioned. Giving, singing, dancing, praying, fasting, reading the word. All of these things are done through, communicated or done or seen to be done through our flesh. And now that's why it becomes difficult for a natural man or even a Christian to be able sometimes to distinguish this dancing I am doing. Am I dancing as a worship or I am dancing to be seen? You must be able to draw the line. That's why I'm saying whatsoever that is done without faith is a sin. Because a Christian can decide to be dancing in singing to God because he's excited. He just wants to prove that he can dance well. While in the realm of the spirit, it is not being communicated to the Father as a worship. His dancing is for people to see. Now, that's why you must now know that if I said that true worship cannot be expressed by the flesh but by the spirit, does not mean that you will not use the instrument of the flesh to carry out some certain activity. But that activity must be connected to the spirit before it becomes worship. So if I am dancing, I will not dance because I know how to dance. I will dance because I'm trying to communicate, using my dancing to communicate to the Father. So if you are dancing now, are you paying attention to your step or you are paying attention to the Father? Is what you are doing to glorify the Father? Because if it is, some of us don't know how to dance properly. You can be dancing off the beat. So that's why you now see such person can go to church and he will refuse to dance, even when he feel he needed to communicate to the Father with dancing, but he knows that he's someone that cannot dance properly. So he may be, he will look at people around me, will look at me and say, what is wrong with this guy? Why am I dancing like this? So in other words, it means any day such person will dance because he are not, okay, this particular step I can dance in properly. It means he's not communicating to the Father in worship. What is concerned about is how people will view him, what people will see. Look at what happened in the days of David. He danced until he was almost naked. Now, but to him, his concern was that he was trying to communicate a worship to the Father, not being seen with what is happening to him. So the question will be, anytime you are trying to communicate worship to the Father, these two important elements must be there: spirit and truth. And we have been able to establish why spirit. The Father does not live in the realm of the flesh. You cannot give the Father any sacrifice that does not come from the spirit. So if I'm going to give to God a sacrifice in fasting, I will ask myself, why fasting? Am I sleeping, waiting for the time when the fast will be break? Or am I fasting and focusing on the Father? So whatsoever I'm going to give to the Father must be from the standpoint of the spirit, even though it is an exercise carried out by my flesh, but it must be given to the Father from the standpoint of the spirit, because those that must worship God in spirit and truth. And why? Because God is a spirit. In the next episode, I'll be talking about the issue of the truth. I'll see you next time. God bless you.